resumes, interviews, workplace tips, interview tips, especially all that kind of good stuff. And it is the weekend, and I was thinking about this stuff, and I thought, you know what? I'm getting a lot of feedback on it, which is good, but we should talk a little bit more about those sorts of things. So this is kind of like a epilogue, right? Or it's kind of like a continuation of. Actually, that's better. Not, I hope it's more Empire Strikes Back, not The Mask 2. But, anyways, so references, all that sorts of stuff. There's going to be some links to some videos below, so check them out. But when it comes to references, and I said this in the other video, but I'm just going to reiterate some of the finer points that it's like there is a legal responsibility and obligation for an employer if they're being told about, hey, I got this person here for reference, right? You can't just, if you were to just badmouth the employee to no end, right? You can be opening yourself up to perhaps some liable stuff. I'm not a lawyer. I'm an unemployable counselor, but I do know that you have to be careful how you conduct yourself because your business could get exposed. And if you're giving foul references about people that used to work for you, then that doesn't look very good for you or your business either. So how do you navigate that piece when you have a worker who's probably has his struggles or her struggles, whatever the case may be there, right? How do you deal with that when they have to be terminated? We have to use you as a reference. Now, typically if someone is terminated, they're not going to use you as a reference because if you worked with them or they worked for you and they were terminated, any reference you give would have to be like, well, all I can legally say is he worked here from this amount of time to this amount of time. He's no longer in our employ, and we wouldn't hire. And if we wouldn't hire him back, right? Right, or something to that effect, right? Or basically, that's all legally I can tell you. If that's all they say, then they kind of have an idea. Okay, well, clearly things didn't go as well, so we're going to proceed with caution here, right? And just because someone doesn't have any good references doesn't mean they're a good employee, because a lot of times good employees can be in situations like another video I talked about when your workplace goes bad, right, where maybe they don't have any alternatives, so they're kind of starting over from scratch there. And those are where it's a challenge, because some organizations require certain references or a certain number of references, and they want them from certain aspects of your life, a professional, a personal, whatever, social, whatever, right? So they want those distinct because they want to know how you are in the workplace, how you are to work with, and how you are maybe just as an individual, right? So how do you figure those into the larger scheme of things? So if it makes it somewhat difficult. So you should always keep that in mind when you are looking at resumes, that the people are coming there. A lot of times it's easy to say, oh, second chance, or oh, we can do this. But just go through and check them. If they got them on there, that means that you can call them. They're agreeing to that. And if you're writing the resume and you're putting people on there that you don't think are going to give you a good reference, then they should not be on there, because chances are they won't. Right? Or they'll just say, oh yeah, they were here from this date to this date, and it doesn't work here anymore. That's that. And then the prospective employer is like, oh, okay, geez, that's kind of weird. If you left on good terms, usually they'd be like, oh yeah, no, it was a good employee, worked hard, all that kind of stuff. But when you don't get an answer, or they just gave you a blanket statement like that, that's kind of tells them what they need to know, and then they can proceed if they want to or not, right? So, I mean, references in those pieces are key, and for a lot of things, it's usually the final step before you get offered something. So that's why I'm kind of talking about this now. So if you are acting as a reference for someone, make sure you're acting in good faith, right? If you're telling people you will be and then you're not, like, that kind of game playing happens, especially if people are like, they don't want to say no to someone being a reference even though they don't want to give them a good one, right? Or some people will say they'll give a good one and give a bad one just to screw them over because that's just, they get off on it somehow. There's a whole lot of different individuals out there that do things for a whole lot of different reasons, but I find when it comes to things like this that have actual impact on people's lives, right? I would say power and control thing. If you get unhealthy people doing unhealthy things, it doesn't matter in what context it is, it's still unhealthy, right? So if you are doing up a resume, then make sure you have people you know for a fact are going to give you a positive reference, right? I would say too, it's like if you put someone on your resume that doesn't give you a positive reference, not only is it done, but I'm thinking to myself, why would you put this person on here? Clearly you didn't do your due diligence. You just slap names on here maybe. It says a lot more about what you would possibly bring to work for me than anything else, right? It's all those little key factors, right? A lot of it is like character, or goes down to, your ethics. Just, I like to look at it's the way you can problem solve and view a problem, right? Or those sorts of things. It's like I mentioned before, but it's like questions you would ask during an interview, right? Things like, like I said in the interview tips one, right? What's your biggest mistake? Those sorts of factors, right? Basically, it's how those are character questions. So your references are an extension of how you are presenting yourself, right? So if you're not going to take that step, I told you I was in a house coat. If you're not going to take that step to put your best foot forward, then it's already lost, because then what effort are you putting into it, right? It's like the old question, should I have a cover letter? Yes, you should. If you're dropping off a resume, you should have a cover letter. It details what you want, and it's a cover letter, not a cover book. So make, like a little introductory part, then you got your kind of meat of it. I'm looking, I'm a recent graduate from this, or blah blah blah. I wrestled alligators in the Alabama circus. Now I'm coming back to, live an honest life, right? Or whatever the hell it is, right? You can do all these sorts of things, but don't make it super long. Like maybe a few sentences in that middle paragraph, and then it's like, thank you for thank you for your consideration for your position. I look forward to being in contact with you, or whatever the case may be. I look forward to discussing this, the positions available in greater detail with you in person, blah, blah, blah. Respectfully, yours truly, whoever, right? So you keep it tight, right? To whom it may concern. I always think, too, if you're applying in a bunch of different places, like there's always the generic cover letter. But, man, if you put, like, two Colonel Sanders, if you're applying against whoever, to the manager. Or if you call ahead and know who the manager is, you can put their name on there. Attention manager, Ted, or wherever the case may be, right? So you put those in there, and it kind of be like, oh, right? To me, it already shows that you're doing a little due diligence. You already know who the manager is. You come into the interview, you know a little bit about the organization. You take the time in the resume to highlight what your strengths are, and all those sorts of things. But no, when it comes to that reference piece, and just people got, in this day and age too, you got to be careful what you say about anybody. If you go into graphic detail, not only are you bound by a confidentiality by your employer where you would work, so you really got to be careful what you say, because it's not, no contrast. Oh, in any circumstances except when someone calls for a reference when you're no longer in our employ, right? Those sort of things can lead to all sorts of nasty legal stuff. That's why you keep it to the point, right? You don't need to tell them anything because of confidentiality, number one. But I mean, like, just the whole idea that people would use someone that they, if they left in those circumstances, why would you use them as a reference? Like, it's just, anyways, you'd be surprised at the stuff you see kind of coming in that people think are acceptable, right? I always remember reading one that had it had reason for employing, reason for applying here, or the case, and it was, this seemed like a real cool gig. I always remember that, and I'm like, granted, it stuck out, but it's like, we weren't hiring 60s beatniks right out of the coffee house, right? So it was just, I don't know, some things stand out, right? The Kearney lumberjack worker, that was another one. But anyways, that's kind of it today. I just wanted to do a quick little Sunday kind of follow up to a couple of the stuff that I've been posting. We're closing in on 350 subscribers, which is amazing since we just hit 300 a couple days ago. So I thought I'd send this out there and follow up to some of the... I've been posting a couple older videos just because we're getting back in the swing of things, and we got some cool stuff coming up. But thank you for listening, and thank you for making it to the end. And if you made it this far, again, please wake up. Please wake up. And go about your day. Have fun. If you haven't already, like, share, subscribe, and share. Please, I would appreciate that. Let's share it far and wide, and we'll get this thing rolling. All right. Take care of yourself. Enjoy this day. Whether you're working or at home or with your kids or with your dog or wrestling those alligators, whatever it is you're doing, have a great day today. All right. Thank you.